All right, beloved, we are back, and this is day 5. It has been a wonderful Sabbath. I I had a great time preaching at Kano's church, and so today we are going to talk about how we then went and tried to validate our business product. Um, while the while the product was still in its infancy, we went to Soweto for the first time with the gentleman, and one of the things we went to do there was to just check among the people whether or not, if they're looking for properties, would use WhatsApp. That was the basic question. Would you use WhatsApp as an interface for search, discovery, matching, and whatever else for property? So we got there, and a few people let us in. A few people were a bit apprehensive, but at the time, of course, we understood that the product was still at its nascent phase. But most people were kind of intrigued by the fact that it's a possibility. And so we leaned into that. We leaned into, okay, so if it's a possibility, what would make the experience better for you? And so they told us that no. I just like it to talk to me like naturally, natural language. Around this time, FNB was doing that whole e-wallet thing via WhatsApp. They had transitioned, not transitioned, but like they had added the fact that one can send an e-wallet through a WhatsApp chatbot. And so you could see that, okay, the market is waking up to this idea of doing things over WhatsApp. And we then went back to building, and then we then decided to do a control test that we did among our community of Vetstasm members and alumni, and about 34 respondents to that control test. Each of them, though, gave feedback, structured feedback. Tell us what you liked the most, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see improved on the platform. Validating really. During that period, I think I was attending a few meetings, and I told one of the business classes or Zoom sessions that I was attending that, it's such a gut-wrenching experience, because it's the first time your baby prototype, in this case, is being seen by other people, right? You kind of feel exposed. And the feedback, of course, based on what we had built at the time, was obviously necessary. Tendo will tell you he thinks it was brutal, but at least it was anonymous, so we wouldn't know who shared the actual feedback, because it was on a Google form. So I think it was better that way. Others, yes, did share like direct feedback with us, but because we knew that we're still developing the platform, it didn't trouble me as much, and it definitely showed that, okay, if people are as interested in making sure that the product is better by critiquing it early, it means that there's something there in the market and that people want to try it out. So that's the vision and version I came out with. So I'm saying this to say that when you test the product in the market and people say, nah, it's bad at this, it's bad at that, I wish it could do this, I wish it could do that, that doesn't mean shut down the whole project. That just means do micro pivots to make sure that it works. And then I also spoke to a few family members of mine to test the product. They told me, yeah, it doesn't speak to me. Tell me what I'm in for, why I'm here, and what the service is like in the initial stages, so that I can decide whether or not to continue to give information to this platform. So we decided, okay, let's amend that, make sure that it speaks to why you're here and how much you're in for, and why you're in for what it is that you're in for. And so we put some of that information there, and I'll tell you about now. Later on, we started thinking around, okay, let's give the platform defensibility. And at first, there was nothing defensible, because what we learned after our first pitch was that we were positioning our platform for safety, but we were not mentioning what the safety features are in the platform, right? So at that time, we hadn't put in things like verification, for example. People had asked us, why are we taking a picture of ourselves, for example? So we had to explain all those things in the sequence of events. And yeah, we got better at it, of course, as we were developing during those days, those Wednesdays, those late nights. We then got to appreciate that, okay, users want this, but they definitely needed to improve before launch. So we got some useful feedback from that session, and we were able to get a clearer direction as to where we need to go from there. So the streets helped, definitely the streets helped. And we did go back to the streets, by the way, physically later on to just revalidate the model. So validation is not a once-off process, it's a continuous process, because some parts, some features of your design may be properly validated, no questions asked, and then others, there's still room for improvement. So yeah, that's the whole move around validation. Otherwise, as always, subscribe, and we will keep sharing the content. Next, I'm gonna tell you about the regulatory environment. Maybe regulatory and legal compliances that we had to go through. Cheers.